Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar. So the focus on today's webinar is going to be now on end of the year, which is now your final data submission. So we are going to start building towards that moment where you will now be doing your last submission for the year. So the whole idea here is just to ensure that you have all the tools that you need in place to ensure that that submission goes smoothly as possible on your end without any issues coming up on your end and then end up delaying you from being able to submit on time. So before we start with the session, I'm quickly going to introduce my two colleagues, which is Musa, whom I know that you are very well familiar with him because he is usually the one who's doing the Thursday and Friday webinar sessions for us. And then he's not alone, he's also with IK. They are both in Gauteng. So Musa and IK will be my support for today, and then I'll be leading the session. Now, before I start with the session, I know that we have noticed from the previous webinars that we are taking some time to acknowledge and appreciate some of the officials who are our frequent attendees on these webinars. And then this data that we are presenting to you now, if maybe you are not seeing yourself, do not be discouraged. We are focusing more on the officials that have been active between March and August 2021. So these are the people that we are currently acknowledging. And then the assumption now is that in January again, we'll start again and then look at the 6 months, and then we'll be now acknowledging you on that fashion of maybe based on the focus group that we are looking at. So for today's webinar, we are going to be recognizing Trevor Smith, Razia Ganchi, and Mangaliso Idom. So towards the end of the session, colleagues, we are going to allow the three officials that we are appreciating or recognizing today to say maybe one or two things as to what's keeping them to come into this webinars. What is it that they are gaining from the webinars? So this is just to share the best practices and then maybe how they are taking the lessons learned here and implementing them at their different schools or at their different workplaces. So as usual, before we start with the webinar, we quickly run through how the webinar is going to be facilitated, so that should one of these things occur on your end, at least you know how to respond or what to do to join us. And then the first one speaks to connectivity. So it reads that if you lose a signal and you leave the Zoom session, please do not worry. You can click the link and rejoin the session as soon as your connection is restored. And then the second one is that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button. This will be answered in a Q&A chat during the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to actually emphasize this one. When you have it on your screen, just towards the bottom of your screen there, you will see there is a pop-up that will come up, and then there are icons, and then there's icon there with two chat boxes that says Q&A. Please feel free to click on that Q&A and then engage with us throughout the session, and then the colleagues will be attempting to answer all your questions as I'm continuing with the presentation. And maybe those questions that needs to be answered live, they'll also bring them to my attention, and then I'll answer them live so that maybe the other colleagues can also benefit from them. The fourth one is that all webinars are recorded, and then within approximately 2 business days after the presentation, all attendees will receive attendance register, link to the recording, and then lastly the slides. So please rest assured, just know that all the material that we are going to be using today will be made available to you, and you'll also have access to the recording, maybe just to replay it and maybe remind yourself of some of the stuff maybe that you might have maybe forgotten. And then the next one is that all attendees are on mute during the session, but if errors occur, you are requested to kindly mute yourself and avoid disturbances during the webinar. I'm sure you are familiar with this one, that whenever you log in or you join the webinar, you are mute by default. But if maybe an error occurs and then you find that you are not on mute, kindly mute yourself. The next one, which is also important to us, as it helps us to improve on the kind of service that we deliver to you. It is that we value your feedback. So please take time to answer the poll questions during or after the session. Towards the end of the session, one of my colleagues is going to launch the polls. So kindly take time to engage with those polls, and then maybe just rate us how you saw how you felt in the session. And then from there, we'll also ensure that we incorporate some of the feedback that was provided to us in our next coming webinars to ensure that we always meet and deliver quality service that meets your expectations. And then lastly, please note that the DDD webinars are recorded and published on our DDD Dashboard YouTube channel. This allows other education officials to access the recordings in their own time and benefit from the content provided. Should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact the DDD Help Desk. So those are the rules on how our webinars are usually conducted. So I'm now quickly going to rush through the session objectives. The first one is to ensure that our colleagues or the colleagues in the session, when they go back to their schools, and as they prepare to do their end of the term submissions, they understand how to upload final term for data. And then they are also able to identify the common challenges encountered when submitting school data and respond to those challenges that they may come across. And then lastly, we want to re-emphasize and ensure that our officials understand the resubmissions rules. So this speaks to the term 3 submissions or any submission from term 1 to term 3 that you might feel that maybe you need to resubmit it for the reasons maybe that are very, very, very valid to you. So there is a process that you need to follow, and then we will process it from our end. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to start with the session by looking at the Valistractor overview. And then before we go to the overview, I just want to talk to what is the Valistractor to ensure that everyone in the room here understand what is a Valistractor. And then when we go back to our schools, and then maybe you get a communication from DDD Help Desk saying that your submission is outstanding. I've seen in most cases, the colleagues from the schools, they will send that Luritz confirmation from district and say that this is the evidence that you have submitted. So these sessions helps to clarify the reference submissions that we talk about, or the submissions that the schools do. So when you get comms from us indicating that your submission is outstanding, just know that the submissions that we talk about is the one that is done via the Valistractor. We are not referring to the one that you did at your nearest district office or provincial office, but rather the one that you do via the Valistractor, which makes its way on the dashboard, or which lands on the dashboard. So the Valistractor is a tool that validates and extracts portions of SASAM's school database for the purpose of display on the dashboard. So it validates and then it extracts the portions of your SASAM's data. When we say portions, we mainly speaking to module 1, which is general school information, module 2, which is your HR, module 3, which is your learner and parent information, and lastly, module 12, which speaks to curriculum. So these are the 4 modules or the portions of SASAMs that the Valistractor validates. And as soon as it's done with validations and there are no errors, then it extracts it. So that's where the name comes from. The Valistractor is coming from these 2 words. It validates the last 4 letters, it validates your data, and then as soon as it's done with validating it, then it extracts it, which is the structure now to the dashboard. It is a key piece in the puzzle of improving the quality of data collected and submitted by schools and used for analysis by all stakeholders in the education system. By all stakeholders in the education system. This tells you that the data that you're submitting to the dashboard colleagues, I'm sure you are now familiar with that, with what I'm going to say to you now, that it's not only coming to the dashboard, or it's not only utilized by certain people, but basically it is utilized by all the education officials from your school until the high level at the province. even the MEC, if in your province, I know, let's make an example with Limpopo, the MEC in Limpopo is having access. So that means the MEC is also having access to this data, meaning to say the decisions that the department is going to be making about your school is going to be based on the data that you've provided them with. So which is why it is important that you also need to take note of all the validations that the Valistractor, you need to take note of all the validation summary that the Valistractor provided to you, and then you attempt to fix all the inconsistencies or the missing gaps, so that when you submit that data, at least it is of high integrity and accuracy. So this is the Valistractor, which is the tool that we use to extract on the database. So this is our data journey, how the data moves from one place to the next until it lands on the dashboard. We all know that our data is starting in a class where it is now collected in the form of attendances, recording sheets. That's where it starts. And then from there, it makes its way onto SSMs, which is now the administrator will capture this information from the class. And before this information, it is captured here, a good process or a good practice, which is recommended as a best practice, is that before this data comes to the administrator, it needs to have gone at least 2 people who are monitoring and verifying it to ensure that it is accurate. That's a good, that is a best practice, that before it lands on the administrator's desk, this data must have passed through 2 officials at the school. And these officials in most schools needs to be an SMT member. And then one will be the HOD maybe, and then from the HOD, then it will be the principal. From the principal, it will go on SSMs. So this tells that once data is now on SSMs, we cannot come back to manipulate it because it was verified to ensure that it is accurate. And then during the verification process, that type process provides an opportunity to say if there is anything that is not correct, it needs then to be pushed back to the class to be corrected before it even lands on the dashboard on SSMs. That's the good practice, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the practice I want to challenge you to ensure that this December, before you capture any marks on SSMs, everything that you are going to be capturing has gone through that monitoring process, whereby the HOD or designated SMT member monitored the data and the principal signed it off. Then it goes to the administrator for capturing. And then the next step then is for the Valistractor to validate this data, to check for the inconsistencies or for the missing gaps. And then where it sees the missing gaps, then it will present those gaps in the form of metrics. And then this matrix uses like your traffic lights. We have a red, we have a green, and then we have amber, which is not shown here. Whereby where you see green, it is simply telling you that the people or the information that is captured under that particular metric, it is captured at 100%. It is captured at 100%, not accurate, but at 100%. There are no missing. Where marks needs to be captured in front of a learner's name, the marks are captured there, then it will be green. And then where you see red, it simply tells us that there is no information captured. Where the red is having an exclamation mark, it's simply telling us that the information that is needed there, nothing is captured. And it's critical for that information to be captured on the system before you can submit. So this is the Valistractor. And then once everything is okay on the Valistractor, everything is green, then you can upload or extract your data onto the dashboard. And then data uploaded via the Valistractor is captured in data store and then uploaded to the dashboard. All stakeholders are now then able to analyze the data and graphics to ensure them to support them in performing their roles. The colleagues, I know that throughout the year, they have been speaking to some of the reports, showing you how to make your analysis, how to identify learners at risk using the data from the dashboard. So now you start to make your analysis. You start now to plan your interventions using data so that your interventions are more effective because they'll be informed by the actual situation in the class. So this is the data journey. This is how the data from SSMs is moving from SSMs to the dashboard. This means we do not want to, the reason I'm showing you this process, ladies and gentlemen, is to try and move away from situations whereby a principal will be sometimes disowning the data, saying maybe the school's data was manipulated in a way. If you have heard me well on this process, there is no way that no way that way I mentioned that when the data gets on the Valistractor, now we start to work on the data. The Valistractor only run the validations. So this means everything is at the school. And then here is just to check that everything is captured and then it uploads it. So if there is anything wrong here on the dashboard, it is not the dashboard that is at fault. The problem is here at the school. And then if it's a big problem, then it speaks to the data management process at the school to say, did we even monitor this data before we capture it? If we are now shocked by what we are seeing on the dashboard, what did we sign off during that verification process, where the information from the class, it went to the SMT, designated SMT member. From there it went to the principal, then it was captured, because that's where we need to spot all those things that are not supposed to be captured. And then with regards to the third-party administration system, this speaks mainly to the independent schools. Please note that we are in progress in finding ways to support such schools, your third-party schools, your independent schools that are not using SASMs, including those that are using SASMs. However, their school terms differs from the National Gazetted one. They are also not able to submit at the moment, simply because the Valistractor and the SASMs are aligned, and they are both looking up on the National Gazetted term. So anything outside the National Gazetted term, the Valistractor will not be able to upload. So we are busy working on how we are going to be supporting such schools. Now let's start with our Valistractor journey submission. Ladies and gentlemen, we are focusing on end of the term submissions, which now we are going to do on the last week of December. I think it's going to be on the 15th, or that week of the 15th. That's when we are going to be doing this submission. Not tomorrow, but that week of the 15th, the last week of the current term, or the last week of the school calendar year. Now, we are going to be looking at the versions first, the version of the SASMs and the version of the Valistractor. For the Valistractor to be able to upload your database successfully to the dashboard, you need to ensure that you are running on 7.1.0.1. Anything below this, just so that you might struggle with your submissions. And then the good thing about the Valistractor, remember that you need to use the Valistractor with active connectivity, right? So what happens is that once there is a latest upgrade of the Valistractor, when you launch the Valistractor, it will give you a pop-up to say the latest version of the Valistractor is now available. And then it will even give you an opportunity to upgrade. So please just don't dismiss that message and always upgrade to ensure that you are running on the latest and most recent Valistractor version. The same applies to the SASMs. Currently, the new patch was released, I think it's this week, right? Yeah, this week, which is now 21.2.1. Please ensure that for your end of the term submissions to go smoothly, you need to be running on this patch. If not, then you're going to struggle, because where you need to deviate from your calculations, this is where this patch comes in, because it has been prepared to allow for those deviations. So if you are running on anything less than this patch, then you are going to struggle with your promotions, and you're still going to struggle with this person here, the Valistractor. Remember, they communicate with one another. So just ensure that you are running on both on the latest versions of both the systems. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Valistractor is installed on each computer within the 8 provinces of South Africa. Each school is having this application installed on their machine. And then this is the icon that you will double click on to open the Valistractor. So the reason I'm starting at this point is to ensure that even if it happens that Jantjie, as an administrator on the last day of the school, is not able to come to school because maybe of some family responsibilities, the school does not close and go on a holiday without submitting. That's why we are bringing this submission process to you, so that even you as a principal, as long as everything was captured, it's just a matter of submitting. You will be able to do the submission process, because it's not a major one. It's just a simple process which can take you even less than 5 minutes. As long as everything has been captured for the year, there is no reason for you to go on a holiday and say we can't submit because now the administrator is sick and then we don't know how to use the Valistractor. It's very, very easy. That's why we are starting here to say on your desktop, there is this icon. Then when you double click on the icon, it will take you to the next screen, which will be this one. But now before I come to this screen, I want to speak to these two tabs, which is term to date and final validation. But as you can see, the focus is mainly on this one. The term to date is the one that is happening every Friday. Tomorrow is Friday. Please do your term to date. It's Friday. And there are schools that have never done their term to date. When I was still supporting some schools from January to now, there are schools that have never done term to date. Ladies and gentlemen, this submission is very, very important because it allows the department to make decisions using the most recent data of your school, because this is the data as of last week, Friday. So tomorrow, this is where you come, term to date. And then on the last week of the school term in December, on the 15th or on the week of the 15th, maybe on the 13th, if your school finished everything early, or even on the 10th, this is where you're gonna come now, final validation. And then final validation refers to the end of the term submissions of all the tasks, attendance captured, and also the term promotions read. Can you see now we are now talking about term promotions because we are now in December. So this means everything, ladies and gentlemen, promotions, everything needs to have been done already before you click on final validation. And then when you open the Valistractor, this is how it's going to look like. This is how it's going to look like when you open it. And then on this front screen, where it says select database, all you need to do is just to ensure, you just look here, you don't browse, you just look to ensure that it is looking to the correct location of your database. And then what I usually emphasize is that the Valistractor will forever be looking to the correct SASUM's location for the lifespan of the computer that you are using, unless at any given time, maybe you change your SASUM's computers. Maybe you are using this computer, you are now going to be using another computer. That's when you can select browse. But if you are still using the computer that you have been using the previous weeks, you don't have to be browsing here every Friday when you submit. You can just ignore this button because it will always be looking on the correct location of the database, unless, like I said, you move that database maybe to another location. That's when then the Valistractor will now need to be redirected. But if not, it will always be looking to the correct location. So this means now the two things that you need to focus on are here at the bottom. You just need to verify that you are looking at the correct year, which is 2021. And the term selected as well is the term that you want to do the final validations for, which is now term 4. And then once you confirm these two things here, then you can click on select database. When you click on select database, you are confirming and telling the Valistractor that yes, I want you to run the validations for me for 2021, particularly looking at this term, which is term 4. And then when you click on select, then the Valistractor is going to take you to this screen. I'm sure you are now all familiar with this screen, particularly the people who have been doing term to date, who are doing term to date every Friday, that immediately after clicking on select database, after clicking on select, it gives you this pop-up that says, no promotions records were found. Promotions must be completed before performing final validation. Can you see it is now starting to let you know that in order for you to do your final validation, the promotions needs to be on the system for term 4. You just click on OK. And then when you click on OK, you will then do your term to date. So what I want to communicate here is just to say, let me try to move this thing. Perfect. So from this pop-up, it says here from the previous screen, which is this one, ladies and gentlemen, which is now this one. Immediately when you click on select here, it will take you here. So the Valistractor will pop up the above user message. No promotions records were found. Kindly note it is okay to dismiss the above pop-up from now, which is from today, to week ending 12th December, because that's the last week that will be that's the last week for term to date, the week of 12th December, because the following week that's when we need now to close the schools. So we will be doing our term to date from today up until this week. On the 12th of December, this is going to be your last submission for the term. for term to date, for term to date. But if maybe it happens at your school that, okay, on the 12th, maybe some schools finishes early, everything is done, you've run your promotions, the Valistractor will also tell you that everything has been captured. How about you do validations, final validation? Because it can see when it looks within your database that everything has been done for the year has been closed. So it's ready to process it, it's ready to submit your last submission of the year. So this is the last week of doing term to date, and then the following week, then you are going to be doing final validation. So you can just dismiss this message. It shouldn't stop you from submitting. You just dismiss it, and then you focus on what? On term to date. Now, come the week of the 15th, which is the last week when the schools are closing, the actual closing on the 15th. Let's say maybe your schools couldn't finish early, so on the 15th, that's when you are able to submit. Then you will see that this button here, you will not even get this pop-up. You will not get it. Automatically, you'll have these two options, and then you'll come here to final validation. When you click on final validation, it will run your validations here. And then if for any reason, when it runs the validations, it sees that you haven't done the promotions yet, it will give you this pop-up then to say, yes, we can see that everything is captured, but we are not seeing, it is not seeing the promotions. And the promotions are key in order for this button here to be active. Without promotions, this button is not going to be active. And then it will run the validations, and then it will give you a validation summary. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how your validation summary needs to be on the week of the 15th when you do your final submission. This is how it needs to be, exactly like this. Everything needs to be clean, except for the identifiers, because identifiers speaks to the Lorit numbers and the ID number, but everything else needs to be clean on the 15th of December when you do your final validations. And then when everything is clean, like we are seeing here on this report, then you can proceed to say, okay, my report is clean, everything is okay. Then you proceed to click on extract data. Then you will click on extract data, and then a user agreement pop-up message will come up. Please don't dismiss this, read it. Sometimes it's an early warning that can make you aware that you are about to make a mistake. So if you are reading the pop-up, then you are most likely not to make a mistake. So you'll read here to say, I hereby confirm that I ran end of the term. That's the way that you want to hear, end of the term. Should it say term to date, you immediately stop because something is wrong. It needs to say end of the term validation utility for DDD primary school. And then it needs to say term 4 2021. Immediately you see here end of the term, and then you see term 4 2021. You just click on accept. You don't even have to read further. You immediately click on accept. When you click on accept, then it will start to compress your school's SASAMS database. After compressing it, then you will proceed then to the next step, whereby it will say, okay, your database has been compressed. This is the size of the database. Would you want to submit your school's file electronically? Then you need to accept, to click on yes, to agree, to allow with the to allow the Valistractor to submit or extract, or to upload your database to the dashboard. When you click on yes, then it will now start your uploading process or your submission process. And then to know that your submission has been successfully uploaded, you'll get this confirmation message that says the file was uploaded successfully. This is the only time that you know that this submission has been through to the dashboard. Then you can click on close, and then after clicking on close, from my side, I could say that I'm comfortable to say you can call it a year, and then you can close your school, lock the doors, and go on a well-deserved holiday. But if you do not see this message, I'm going to suggest that you sit down, get a glass of water, you start the process again to figure out what you might have done wrong, or maybe to ensure that whichever metric here that is read, it is fixed before you submit. And then this is where now our phones are going to be available 24/7. You will see at the end of the slide, we have your provincial support. Those people will be readily on standby to support you. Our help desk will be readily on standby to support you. Your MEs or IT unit in your province will be on standby waiting to support you, just to ensure that you do not go on a holiday with an outstanding submission, ladies and gentlemen. When you go on a holiday for 2021, let's just ensure that everything for 2021 is submitted. When you start a new year, you start a new year with new year's work. You don't have to be looking at the previous year. Now we have this document, which is called the sign-off. This is like your deployment. So this deployment is going to give you this summary when it is opened. So when you click on sign off here, the Valistractor is just going to ask you, where do you want it to save the sign off? I usually advise people to save it on a desktop, but because this is what you do every week, I then again say on the desktop, I recommend that you create a folder named sign off, right? And then you go to desktop. When you get to the desktop, then you'll go to that folder that says sign off, so that it saves all your sign offs under one folder. They are not all over your screen, but they are inside one folder and they are saved. And then after selecting your location, then it will be saved on your location. On my case, it is on the desktop. If you have created a folder, it will be on that folder. When you open this sign off, ladies and gentlemen, basically what you're going to be seeing is this thing, your validation summary report. So here is to give the principal authority to say, no, man, Jantjie, I'm not happy with this red metric here. What needs to be done for this to be green? Then I will say, no, Mr. IK and Musa are missing teaching loads. You know, immediately you engage the HODs responsible for the two educators, IK and Musa. You are like, guys, it is now December term 4. How come we are not having the teaching loads of IK and Musa? Please go and get, or please provide those teaching loads to the administrator to capture. There is no way that I'm going to allow Jantjie to submit as a database of schools database in December without teaching load, because it is December now. Then immediately those SMT, they will provide Jantjie with information. I will capture it here, teaching load. Then I run the Valistractor again. Then it will be green. Remember that it does not update automatically. It's not like you fix on SASMs, immediately it becomes green. After fixing on SASMs, then you start the process. You just allow the Valistractor to run again here to come into saying final validation, and then you allow it now to run this process of validating your data. And then after validating your data, then you'll see it will now tend to be green. It will no longer be red because you have fixed the error that was making it to be red. And then as soon as the principal is now happy with this thing, what does the principal do? They will sign here to say, I'm happy with everything here that you're about to submit, and then attach the stamp there. And then the administrator can now go to submit. So this means in an ideal world, this process here, the process of submitting, it shouldn't happen before this one of sign off. So this one needs to happen after the principal has provided a green light, either a principal or a designated SASM's officer at the school. That person needs to give a green light to say, I'm happy with everything. Go ahead, Jantjie, and now submit the school's data. So this is the sequence how it needs to happen. It needs to first start with the sign off, whereby the consent is given by signing this form. And then as soon as this consent is given, then the extraction process can take place. And then we know that everything is fine. So these are the critical metrics that I wanted to discuss with you to ensure that come the last week of the year when you submit, you know which metrics needs to be green in order for the extract button to be green on your Valistractor. So these are the 6 metrics. I'm speaking to the 6 because the last one is going, it needs to happen on SASMs. So the first one here, it is registrations, which is this one. This needs to be green at all times, ladies and gentlemen, because when you admit a learner at your school, you need to assign everything to that learner. If you don't assign, that learner is going to make this metric to be red. That is why we are saying it needs to be green, because if you admit a new child today, immediately as you are admitting, you assign the class, you assign the grade, subjects, everything to that learner. So it needs to be green. Assessments is the end of the year. Everything has been captured. Promotions has been done. It needs to be green. We don't have a reason to say it's amber because Jantjie haven't submitted. It is December, we are closing, we are going home. So if he hasn't submitted, then what are we going to submit? How are we going to print the reports? It needs to be green. Final promotions, this needs to be clean because it speaks to the final promotions that we did in 2020. This is 2020 December. Like we are doing this now in 2021. When after doing your promotions, when you run the Valistractor, this needs to be clean to show that your promotions were done successfully. This needs to be clean. Attendance for the educators and the learners needs to be clean. Report mark and term achievement needs to be clean. Everything needs to be clean because we are closing the year. Teaching loads needs to be clean. So everything here needs to be clean except for the identifiers. Remember we said the identifiers host the ID numbers of the learners and the laureates. So it's fine for this one to be read, but all these other ones needs to be clean. And then lastly, you need to have promotions done on SSMs before you even run this, before you can even get here. The promotions needs to be done. Because if you haven't run the promotions yet, the Valistractor is going to give you that pop-up that says no promotions were found within your SSM's database. And then the important tip here, ladies and gentlemen, is that before you run your promotions, you make your backup. Please, before you run promotions, ensure that you make a backup of your SSM state. Because once you run promotions, everything for the year is gone. Everything gone. And then the schools on a rotational basis will most likely not be green because they have been rotating. So they might be amber, so just don't be alarmed when it's not green because of the rotation that has been happening in some of the schools. Now, these are the prerequisites that I also want us to discuss or to be aware of as we prepare for the term 4 submissions. The first one is that you need to ensure that you have made a backup of your SSMs before you run promotions. Please, this one is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very important, because once you click on that button that says promotions, you are deleting everything for this year. Should it happen at the later stage, maybe you need something that you need to report on for 2020, for 2021, you will never find it again immediately once you click on the promotions. That's why I'm saying you make a backup first, so that should anything go wrong, you'll always go back to a backup. The second one, it says here, all learners must have a promotion decision, the P or the NP, before you run promotions. Because if you don't ensure that even those ones that you deviated, that everything, this decision has been allocated to them, then you're going to find that when you go back here to final promotion, for some school it is red. It is because of this reason that sometimes we didn't ensure that all learners are having a promotion decision before we run the promotions. The third one, it says, if there are any learners that need to be archived, kindly archive them before saving the promotion decisions. Because immediately you include them on the promotion decisions and then you archive them, they'll still be hanging. The Valistractor will be like, these learners are having the promotion decisions, but now we are not seeing them on the learners that were promoted. So if maybe you know that, okay, Jantjie wrote 5 exams for the 5 subjects, but for some reason something happened and then he maybe dropped out, just ensure that before you save this promotion decisions on that schedule, on that, I can't remember the module name, but I know it is named promotion decision descriptors. Before you save on that schedule, ensure that Jantjie is archived, because we have evidence that I have dropped out. So I have dropped out. I only wrote the 5 subjects. The 6th one, I couldn't write it because maybe we had to relocate on an emergency. So before you do anything, before you include me on this promotion decisions, you need to archive me. Because if you include me, just know that your final promotion is going to be read, because this person didn't write all the tests or all the exams for the subjects. He only wrote for 5. So for this one that he didn't write, if you are going to give me the decisions for the ones that I've written, then just know that when you do your promotions here, this one is going to be read by default because of that. That's why I'm saying, if maybe there is a learn that needs to be archived for some reason, then that needs to be archived before you get to this point. And then also ensure that you have submitted your term 1 to term 3 data before you run promotions, because once promotions are done, you will not be able to go back and upload term upload these terms. Please, ladies and gentlemen, just to be certain that you are up to date with all your submissions, I'm going to request that before you do your final promotions or before you even run the promotions on your SESMs, just sit on the Valistractor and then select term 1 here. Let me quickly go back. I apologize. When you get to this screen, kindly select term 1 and click on select. And then if you have submitted term 1, the Valistractor will tell you that you have previously submitted term 1. And then after getting that confirmation, then I would advise you come here again, you select now for term 2. Then when you get that confirmation that you have submitted, you come back again and then you select term 3. Just to ensure that you are up to date with all the submissions for 2021. Because believe you me, once we come to this, once once you run the promotions and then you find that you forgot that your term 2 was still outstanding, we will never be able to go back to it because it is gone. When you run the promotion, as I've explained, you are taking the learners into the next class, and then you are getting rid of all the information for this year, except for the information that's going to remain on the schedule. But with regards to the learners, all the learners have been pushed to the next class. Those that are supposed to be moving to the next class, those that are failing, they have been retained or they remained within the grade that they were in. And then here, the next one, it says it is linked to the previous one because it says failure to verify that all 2021 terms are uploaded. By all, we refer to term 1 to term 3 are uploaded on the dashboard prior to running promotions. This will have a negative impact on the learner intervention report in 2022. We have that report that helps us immediately at the beginning of term 1 and term 2. It is available between those two terms to give us the insights on the learners that are at the risk of failing at the end of the year if they are not supported properly. So that report focuses on the previous terms information. So if it happens that maybe you didn't submit all the 3 terms for 2021, you have now already taken the power from this report to help you with analyzing a report of those learners that at your school that are at the risk of failing at the end of 2022, which might need your support from the beginning of the term. That is why the report is only available in term 1 and term 2, because these are the terms that officials believe they are the perfect terms to start your intervention and support the learners so that in December they are not failing. So if you don't ensure that all these 3 submissions are on the dashboard, just know that we have defeated the purpose of this report at your school. And then lastly, term 4 submissions do not have resubmissions. So in term 4, once you submit it, right? Because it's not like you will be like, no, I submitted before I captured 6 learners. No, everything is closed for the year. So once you submit your term 4, we don't have like, because everything has been, because when you do your promotions, remember, you are closing the year. So there is no way that you will come back and want to resubmit, because immediately you run your promotions, everything for that year, you are closing it. So that's why we are saying that term 4 submissions does not have resubmission. It's different to term 1 to term 3. That is why even on our previous webinars, when we were speaking to the submissions, we clearly stated that it is this submission process applied to term 1 to term 3. And then if you have attended the previous one, you will tell that the conversation now, it has changed to how it was when we were talking to term 1 and term 3, because now the term 4 is a bit different to all the other 3 terms. So these are the prerequisites. And then the resubmission rules. Kindly note these resubmission rules, they apply for term 1 to term 3. As I have said, that you need to ensure that you are up to date with all the submissions for the year. So if for any reason you find like, okay, maybe when you look at your term 2, you are not having the task marks, but you know that task marks were captured, then you can request for a resubmission so that you can update that information on the dashboard so that the task marks are shown. So what you will do now is that you will get a submission form, you will request it, a submission form from us, which needs to be signed by the principal and stating the reasons why why the school wants to resubmit. And then the second manager needs to approve that resubmission process. And then once the circuit manager has approved it by signing, the form can be submitted to help desk. And then when you submit the form to help desk, then on your site, you then already submit on the Valistractor. Before you even send it to help desk, you submit on the Valistractor, and then you are going to come across this error message, as I've explained. So when you get this message, it's just saying that we have submitted already. Remember, I told you that I advise that before you run your promotion, just go to term 1 and pretend like follow the process as if you are submitting. And then if you have submitted already, it will give you this pop-up to say you have previously submitted the current term submission. That gives you that comfortability to say, okay, no, term 1 is sorted. If you are not sure, or if you don't know how to check that your school is up to date with submissions on the dashboard, this is what you will do. You will also go to term 2. If you have submitted it, it will give you this pop-up. Term 3, it will give you this pop-up when you attempt to submit. When you click on extract, it doesn't give you this pop-up. Just know that you are outstanding. Then you just follow the process. So when you resubmit, you'll still get this pop-up. You can just ignore it. You click on close, and then you proceed with the submission steps. And then what you will do then is that once you get to a point that it says you have successfully uploaded your term, whichever term that you want to re-upload, then you will email us the completed form. And then together on that form, you'll then on your email say, kindly find the attached resubmission form, which has been approved by the circuit manager. And then the submission, I did my resubmission today on the date 2021 11, and then today is the 11th as well. So it's 2021 11/11. The importance of this date is that maybe let's assume that because on help desk we get a lot of tickets, we get to your email tomorrow. When I get to your email tomorrow, I need now to know that to which date am I going to go and find your submission so that I can reprocess it. So by including the date, I know for sure that, okay, I just have to go to the data mart of today, and then I use your MS number, and then your school will be listed there. But now if you don't include the submission date, then it's going to be a challenge for me, because now I can't be going from January, from the 1st of December until the last day of the school, trying to locate your school submission. So by including that date, you make it easy for me to know, okay, I'm just gonna go to the data mart of this date, and then I just search using the school's MS number, and then I will see their submission, and then I will process it. So when you submit that form, just include the date on your email. Just indicate that, okay, I have resubmitted my data maybe on the 8th of November. So that means I just check that the sign is completed well, and then where do I go? To the date of the 8th. I know for sure that I'm going to get your resubmission request, your school's data from the pool of submissions received on the 8th. Now let's come to the common submissions issues that you are going to come across with. The first one is this one. I'm sure this one you are all familiar with because we have been talking to it. Is the same error. Vision string portions was too long or too short. And then what you do when you come across this error? This error is caused to the changes in the patches table. So the solution here is to patch to the refreshed version of 20.1.2 or 20.1.3, and then run the Valistractor. You'll see it after patching here, this error will disappear when you run the Valistractor again. Important is that whenever we talk about patching, you'll always see this message that says, always back up your database before patching. The same applies to it before you do promotions. The next error is this one that says error fix. Let me go to it now. Sorry, this error. When you come across this error message here, subject official or subject or error in a column. So immediately when you see these two errors here, just know that you need to go to Tuto, download this error fix, include the error fix guide as well. And then after downloading the error fix, in the past, can you see here that in the past here, it's an error about subject official link. And then we also have subject ID null error. So when you come to the error list that we are having, this particular error, it speaks to create in table subject criteria. So when you go to your fix, you are not seeing the tab that speaks to that error. So what you need to do is that you just run all of these three, and then you'll see that it will fix the error, because they didn't have time to create an additional tab here that speaks to that error that you are seeing on the error message. Instead, what they did is that they included the fix for that error within these tabs. So advice here, because most schools will be like, we ran the fix, but it's not working. Yeah, sometimes chances are they are looking for a tab that speaks to the error that they are seeing on the Valistractor, unaware that the fix is incorporated within these three tabs. So just run all three of them, and then you'll see that the error will disappear, and ensure that you are running the 15 October error fix. If you are having the error fix of the previous one, I would advise that you delete it first and then download this one, and then you'll be okay. There is this error again that says the following problems have been identified in the patches. This one, ladies and gentlemen, if you come across it in December, immediately pack your laptop, go to your MS office, because sitting at your school is not going to help you. You'll not be able to fix it. Sending it to us is not going to fix it. Just pack your laptop, go to MS or IT office immediately. They will fix it for you immediately, and then you'll be able to submit when you get back to your school, or you can even submit whilst you are there with them. But if you see this error, don't even bother on sending the database to us or calling us. Just pack the laptop, get in the car, and go to your nearest IT or MS office. They will support you there. And then there is this error again that says error executing query for subject official. It is linked here, colleagues. This is the fix. This is the fix. You just run all three of them. It will fix it. And then can you see, this is the fix, which is already incorporated on the previous one. And then these two ones as well, the subject ID and the grade in table column, these two, you just need to run this fix. So this latest fix is having a solution to all the errors that you might come across on your Valistractor when you do your final submissions. So, and then the last one, I know most of you are going to come across this one. When you come across this one on the last week, you just have to go back and run your promotions. That's it. You don't have to call and say the Valistractor is not cooperating and it's not wanting to submit. Immediately you see this one that says no promotion records. Don't even say, call me and say, but I have run the promotions. Chances are then, if you have run the promotions, the Valistractor is looking at the wrong database. Just ensure that the Valistractor is looking at the database that you have run the promotions on, which needs to be the one that is located within your program files. Then you'll not have this error. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pause here and check with my colleagues if we have any questions that we need to attend to.
Wonderful, Jantjie, and thank you for that very complete explanation. I really hope everyone in attendance has benefited and are now ready to submit that final term submission on the last day of the calendar. It's been very, very quiet, Jantjie. I'd like to think because the colleagues have been deeply participating and following with you. But we do want to open up now, colleagues, for questions. And if there is something that you feel was not clarified, you can raise your hands. As I've said, I think Jantjie's explanation was clear and understandable. But I also want to hear from you. How did you find the session? So I've launched the polls. You'll notice there'll be a giant block on your screen saying user training feedback. I would like to hear from you whether you found this to be of assistance. This particular one we'll be watching very closely because it's very, very key, as you can hear, ladies and gentlemen, that we ensure that our data is not only correct, but complete. All right. I did see a hand just now, Jantjie. Bear with me while I attempt to find that colleague. We have here Diniko Makubele. Diniko Makubele, we've just now given you the microphone, ma'am. Ose, if you could just unmute yourself and speak to us about your concern or query.
Okay, thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to thank Jantjie. The session today was really useful, and some of the things we were coming across it and we didn't know what to do. But all in all, today I have learned a lot, and I said, well done. It was excellent. Thank you. It was just that comment.
And it's very much welcomed, ma'am. Thank you so much for that feedback. And I know you'll be saying the same in the survey that we have posted. Other than that, word of thanks, colleagues, which we appreciate. Has there been any questions? Is there anything that hasn't been clear? Jantjie, there is a chat coming in from Zwandile Linda. They're saying, hi, how do we access the recording for this webinar? Zwandile, thank you for that question. We will, in 2 business days, so on Monday, send you a link to this recording. But if you are interested in watching this again, as of 2 o'clock, you can attend the session as many times as you want in the on-demand session. So all that will mean is that at 2 o'clock onwards, you can simply click on the registration link you used to join the session, and then you'll be able to watch this recording, but it will take your attendance again, which is not a problem. However, you can wait until Monday when we send you not only the recording, but also the slides. Unfortunately, colleagues, we have to allow for those 2 days to ensure that our communication and our quality assurance goes through the process to ensure that we're giving you things that way. So that's Monday. It can happen earlier, but I would say expect it on Monday. Jantjie, I hope I'm answering you there. Then we have anonymous attendee, Jantjie, who says, can one extract SIP from DDD? I have to admit, Jantjie, not having all the answers in this one. What about you? Do you have an idea there? Extracting the SIP from the DDD.
Subject improvement plan. I'm really not sure. I think even if we do, it's going to be just information that's taking you closer to what you are looking for, but not necessarily the whole thing. So no, at the moment we do not have.
I mean, there are some curriculum touch points you can probably pull there, but other points, ladies and gentlemen, the DDD is not geared for that. But I know that in the future, we have penciled the idea of doing a school improvement webinar. So please watch out for our communication in the next year. We've definitely been rambling about that one in our meetings. I had someone with their hand raised. I had Penelope, but they've since lowered their hands. Penelope Dalton, if you do want to speak to us, your hand is now down. So we will consider it that way. If we've made a mistake, please send us a message or raise your hand. Well, Jantjie, looking at the time and looking at the absence of questions, I think what I want to do now is take the time to acknowledge our colleagues who we have earmarked as top attending in the past year. We have here Trevor Smith, Razia Ganchi Badasi, and Mangaliso Adam. I'm pretty sure that I might have seen Mangaliso Adam, although I'm not seeing them now. So I'm just checking here, Jantjie, very quickly to see if any of the colleagues are here. It doesn't seem like they are. But colleagues, if you are here and you are registered under a different name or the name of the school or something like that, please raise your hand now or text us. We would like to give you this opportunity to speak to you and to properly recognize you. Before I hand over to IK, who has his hand raised, there are a couple of concerns that have come in. This one is from Ellen Jansen. Yes, you may use it. If you come across the area, it will feel okay. So this is you, Jantjie, answering a question there that was directed to you, so that I'll leave that one. We also have Fabian Makosani raising their hand. But before I cut to them, let me hear what IK has to say. IK, you've been very quiet this webinar. Talk to us.
No, thanks a lot. I've been quiet because I have 2 competent people here, doing justice to the webinar. I'm just saying that I have checked. I was checking to see if we have the top attendees there, just to save time for you. There's none of them here. Thank you.
Thanks for that, IK. It's exactly what I'm seeing as well. Well, in their absence, we do want to thank them and appreciate them for being such strong supporters of the webinar. We know how crazy and busy and schedule rich this year has been. But for them to continually find the time to be part of this, We want to make sure that they know that we acknowledge and appreciate that. It's a shame that they couldn't be here to speak to us, so we hear what is it about this webinar that is so helpful that they don't miss it, to the encouragement of everyone here. But in their absence and looking at the time, I am very happy to thank everybody for attending and really wish you the best of luck with the exams, and really wish you even more luck with the submission of the records in the school. Hopefully this webinar will make that process easy. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Jantjie, your goodbyes?
I think you have said it well, Musa. It's now that time of exams, so we do want to wish each one of you the best of luck to you and the children at your schools to do well. And thank you for making time to join us at this critical time of the year. We just hope that the webinar will come in handy when you start with your submissions processes. You'll be able to now remember some of the things that we touched on and then make your submission process to go smoothly. Thanks, Musa, and I wish everyone to enjoy their afternoon.
Before I pass on to IK to say his final comments, we do have Yonita Baslar here, and a very important question. And if Jantjie, if you can go to that last slide that has the context for our colleagues at this point. They're saying, I'm using my principal's login details. How do I go about getting my own? First of all, we want to encourage, ladies and gentlemen, that you log into the dashboard with your own login, because then you will benefit from a view that is tailor-made and cut to fit you, right? So that's number one. So if you are just like Juanita here and you are interested in finding out how to get your own session into the dashboard instead of using maybe your principal's, we have our help desk here. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But we also have our colleagues on the ground who are closer to your province. You're also welcome to reach out to them as well. But whatever avenue you choose, make sure that you indicate to them that you're needing a session of your own, a login of your own, having used your principal. Strongly encourage it, colleagues, because it's how we are also able to acknowledge you, isn't it, and recognize you for your attendance. Meanwhile, we'll be recognizing your principal if you're using your principal's attendance. With that in mind, then let me pass on to IK. IK, your goodbyes.
Sorry, I was on mute and I was just speaking. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Jantjie. Thank you so much, Musa. More especially, thank you so much to our colleagues that actually came out to listen to us. Colleagues, it's also with the feedback that we've gotten, it's a testament that this topic was right on point. It was crucial and it was needed at this point in time. And to just add on what my fellow colleagues have said, wishing you guys all the best. Please join us tomorrow. Same platform, same topic, and same presenter. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.